Hi, welcome to a brand new video of the Target Individual Experience, the Target Individual Program. I wanted to do a different video tonight, but I have to get a couple things put together before I even do that video. Excuse me. I need to lower down the volume on this headset that I'm kind of monitoring the audio on. But I was just posting some stuff on Facebook, and I posted there's a PDF out there called "The Mind Has No Firewall." It's based off of a book of the same name. Okay, and this talks about how directed energy weapons created for the purpose of mind control. And I stumbled upon this article here from February of this year. Okay, it is in Business Insider. Okay, and it's called "Warning About Brain Control Weapons Reflect Growing U.S. Concern About China's Military Research." And I'm saying to myself, really? The U.S. has spent the past 7 decades conducting their own mind control program. Many programs after MK Ultra, that they sought to hide from the American public. Also, the mind control victims who were put into these sort of experiments, which was non-consensual. Okay, same as this is TIs, right? Target individuals. We are placed into these programs. Okay, and I talk about this all the time, and how they try to cover it up, and how they try to manipulate you beforehand, so that you can make a mistake, and then they can try to blackmail you into silence as they experiment on you. Okay, this is some of the things that they have done, to me and others, and I had to do my research and realize what had happened. Not also that, but if you are a targeted individual and you speak out against it, they will target some members of your family. If you have children, they will definitely target your children. Okay, and so you got to understand that. But my take on this is that I have to expose what is going on, regardless of the threat of my life, regardless of how they may threaten my kids, because it is bigger than me, and me exposing this will help my kids in the long run. And also would it help my kids, but it'll help your kids, right? For those who are not target individuals, so that you will understand the technology that they have developed, they've created. This is not new, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, they have been able to control the human mind since the 70s. In 1968, you should read the book called by Dr. Jose Delgado. It's called Psycho-Civilized Society. I believe that's the name of it. And it talks about the research that he was doing, and how they'll be able to control people without implants, without electrodes, just by using directed energy weapons. And actually, Dr. Robert Heath, another neurologist from Tulane University in the 1950s, he's the one that first started using electrodes implanted into the brains of human beings to control certain functions. There was an article in which he talks about implanting electrodes into the brain of a woman and a man, and he said the woman would walk around all day pressing the button, and whenever she pressed the button, she will have orgasms. The man, who was gay, they were trying to convert him from gay to straight, And so they had this electrode implanted in his brain, and every time he thought about having sex with a man, he would get a shock. It would automatically shock him. Now, this is from the 1950s. This is not last year or 10 years ago. So we are very ignorant in terms of technology and what the U.S. government have been up to, because they've hit a lot of these things. A lot of these things, when you go to the Freedom of Information site on the CIA website, you will find all the information about what Russia was doing, but you're not going to find anything about what America was doing. But you can rest assured that because they knew Russia was creating these types of technologies, these types of weapons, so you can be 100% certain that they were doing the same thing here in the United States. But because information, particularly here in the United States, have been censored a lot. And I talked about in the mid 90s, a friend of mine from Hong Kong, he was telling me, he was like, you know, here in America, we use tokens. He said in the 1980s in Hong Kong, they were using a card to swipe when they go in the train station in Hong Kong. It's just like the Metro card we use today. They were doing this in Hong Kong in the 1980s. So those that are in control here in America, they hide a lot of technology because they want to keep us ignorant. So when they show these things in the movies, we're thinking that this is like 100 years from now. No, this is happening right now. And so this article about the U.S. warning about China developing brain control weapons, it is the U.S. trying to hide the fact that they themselves have created these weapons. And China is now in the process of developing these weapons. But the United States had already developed these weapons more than 50 years ago. This is what they don't tell you. Okay? So this is why, particularly us as Black people, we're ignorant when it comes to technology. We don't have a clue, and they keep us out of the technological sector for that very same purpose, to keep us ignorant about technology, so that we would never believe that you can put a microchip inside the brain of a human being and you can communicate with that person communicate with you wirelessly. And they've been able to do that since the mid-90s. And just remember, the internet that we use today was created by the military in the late 1970s. So they're already using the internet. They already created the infrastructure. They created all the back doors. This is why they can engage in online espionage that they blame China for, that they blame Russia for. But they're the ones that first did it. Years ago, I read an article about how the U.S. was no longer, they had sanctioned certain Chinese companies because what they found is that they were embedding malware and spyware onto the motherboard. So it didn't matter, whether you wipe your hard drive clean or you run, virus protection software, because the malware and the spyware was embedded inside the motherboard. All right. So when you use a virus protection software, it scans your hard drive, but it doesn't scan the BIOS in your motherboard. Okay. But guess what? Where do you think the Chinese got the idea from? Where do you think the Chinese got the idea from? Because the United States did it first. That's how they knew how to do it. Okay. They just did what America was doing to them. Okay. So again, when America want to act innocent, right, and they want to call out other countries for human rights violation, what about our human rights violation as targeted individuals? Right? What about that? They remain silent on the crimes that they've committed against humanity, particularly against us as targeted individuals. Non-consensual human experimentation. Okay? So I want to read this article, and we're going to just go over certain things because it's important that we understand and we know the truth. Okay? Because the US love to hold other countries accountable or want other countries to hold themselves accountable, but they don't ever hold themselves accountable. And no other countries has, as far as I know, besides Iran, has ever held the United States accountable for anything. Okay? And the reason why Iran calls out the United States is because of the treatment of its black citizens, of black Americans, and black people that live in America. Okay? So I want to also get into this in late 2021. The U.S. sanctioned several Chinese entities over the creation of biotechnology that includes purported brain control weaponry. Okay? So, in late 2021, the U.S. government sanctioned several Chinese entities for their involvement in the creation of biotechnologies that include purported brain control weaponry. As an aspiring superpower, the Chinese Communist Party has dodgily pursued economic, technological, and military supremacy, often through illegal and questionable means. Can't we say the same thing about the United States? The U.S. Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security now says the Chinese Academy of Military Medical Science and 11 of its research institutes have been involved in the research and support of biotechnology, including brain control weaponry that the Chinese military intend to use to gain a battlefield advantage. Now, I can show you several articles, right, by Wired Magazine, as well as the Washington Post, including the New York Times, on the U.S. military, right, developing mind control weapons. Okay? But they don't understand is that the United States have already developed these weapons. And they are already in use. And we as targeted individuals, when we call out the U.S. for its atrocity against us as non-consensual human experimentees, they use psychiatry to silence us, to take away our voice. Okay? Human rights abuse and national security. In a notice to the Federal Register published in December, the Commerce Department added 34 China-based entities to its blacklist, accusing them of acting contrary to a foreign policy on national security interests of the United States. They're a Chinese-based entity. Their loyalties to their country. Okay? The scientific pursuit of biotechnology and medical innovation, can save lives. Unfortunately, the PRC is choosing to use these technologies to pursue control over its people and its repression of members of ethnic and religious minority groups, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said in a press release. Now, I can say the same thing about the United States. They have been using this technology to solidify the religious belief, particularly Christianity, in this country. They've used psychological coercive methods. They have used manipulation in order to bring people to the so-called Christian faith. Okay? The U.S. Commerce Department put the Chinese firms, laboratories, research center, and academic institution on the entity list, which is designed to sanction individuals, organizations, and companies that pose or might pose a risk to U.S. national security or foreign policy. In addition to the Chinese entity, the department sanctioned entities in Turkey, Malaysia, and Georgia for diverting or attempting to divert U.S. material to Iranian military programs. The department sanctioned 5 Chinese medical and technological companies and institutions for the support of China's military modernization efforts, and 5 others of acquiring or trying to acquire U.S.-made items that would reinforce the People's Liberation Army. The decision to sanction the Chinese entities follows evidence that their research, products, and services have a military application and are being used or will be used to support the Chinese Communist Party's human rights abuse. The international community has repeatedly criticized Beijing for its genocidal policies against the I can't even pronounce that. Let me see if I can use okay. I use Google, and all right, normally they will give, how do you say that word? Okay, let me just show a quick clip here. Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta go through this commercial.
153 million. That's how many orphan children there are in the world.
Actually, let me
every single night, especially those living in
let me pause the video.
What if we told you that Muslims around the world
Okay, so it's called the Uyghurs, you know, in Xinjiang. The U.S. has accused the Chinese Communist Party of crimes against humanity for its targeting and prosecuting the Uyghurs minority. We cannot allow U.S. commodities, technologies, and software that support medical science and biotechnical innovation to be diverted towards use contrary to U.S. national security, Raimondo said, adding that the U.S. will continue to stand strong against efforts to turn tools that can help humanity prosper into implements that threaten global security stability. Now, it's interesting when they say these things because, you know, anyone who is halfway educated, have an education, whether you go to a 2-year college and get an associate, or you get a master's or what have you, you know the history of the U.S. government. You know that when they talk about these things, that they themselves have developed it or in development of it. And I'm always reminded by this. Okay, I can't remember where I got this from, but I think it was a scientist that says that the U.S. government is 10 to 15 years ahead of the tech companies. And a lot of times in America, the U.S. government trickles down technology to American tech companies to give them a leg up on foreign competition. The U.S. have also engaged in corporate espionage, stealing of other countries' technological secrets. So they walk a very careful line in how they word things when they say it, to not give the appearance that the United States itself have developed these weapons. But come on, any sensible person can tell you that, if they okay, let me give you an example. So in 1968, the State Department in Moscow, the U.S. security agencies were doing a bug sweep, and they picked up on a signal. Okay? They picked up on the signal, and they started to take blood samples of their diplomats. They started asking them questions, how they feel and such and such. Then they told them when the diplomats asked questions, they were like, well, there's like a sickness going around, like a flu or what have you. And for 10 years, they kept this up. While a number of diplomats suffered psychological issues, neurological damage, physical damage. Some developed cancer. Okay. Some of the women were rendered sterile for 10 years. They never told their diplomats what was happening. Okay. And we've seen the past couple of years when you had whistleblower Edward Snowden, who's probably the most famous. When he came out and, first they said, oh, well, we don't listen to people conversation in the United States, the NSA, because they're only allowed to operate on foreign soil, not on domestic soil, same as the CIA. Anything happens in America, there is the FBI and the Department of Justice. But yet, we see that, they have been listening to our conversations. And they say, well, no, we just collected the metadata. Well, when Edward Snowden released those treasure trove of documents, not only do they collect the metadata, but they are recording every single conversation. Then you have police departments across the United States using surveillance technology that the military uses. Then they say, oh, well, we're not listening to people's calls, we're just collecting metadata. Then we find out that they are listening to people's calls. Then we find out they are sitting in their squad cars, in their vans, okay, tricking our cell phones into accessing their device and listening to surveilling and listening to all of our conversations and recording all of our conversations. Then they say America is not a surveillance state. America is a country of freedom. Okay? It is all an illusion, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, let me continue. Okay. So at the heart of the sanctions is the Chinese Communist Party's ongoing attempt to create weapons that could facilitate cognitive control operations. What that means is that to be able to control a person's cognitive feature, to co-opt their consciousness, okay, take over their mind. The History Channel has a series called America's Secrets, and they have you can watch them on YouTube, okay. And one of the videos, they show you how this scientist, right, was controlling another person's hand, okay. And it makes me think, because there are times when I'm like targeting myself, like doing hand signals to myself, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? Why am I, and once I become conscious of it, I literally have to force myself not to do these things. Like I had to put my hands underneath the cover, okay, because this is what they are doing. Even today, on the heavy remote neuromodulator, I have to come home and take my headache medicine. Okay. Even right now, doing this video, there is a pain in the back and the right side of my head. Okay, it's like a pulsating pain. All right, let me continue. The Chinese military correctly asserts that advancing, you hear that? The Chinese military correctly asserts that advancing technologies are rapidly changing the nature of warfare. Beijing wants to have the modern mechanized military that is interconnected and can share information rapidly and smoothly, while integrating advanced capabilities to analyze vast troves of data and offer its forces a cognitive advantage. As a result, Beijing has adjusted its military modernization priorities to include intelligentized capabilities alongside the mechanization and informationization of its forces. According to the Pentagon's most recent report on the Chinese military, Beijing have been exploring next generation operational concept for intelligentized warfare, such as attrition warfare by intelligence swarms, cross domain mobile warfare, AI based space confrontation, and cognitive control operations. Cognitive control operations using so called brain control weapons could suit an aristocratic regime that seeks physical and digital oversight of populations under its control, and they would have domestic and foreign applications. Now, today in China, you have school kids going to school, and they have to put on this device over their head, and it basically monitor their cognitive abilities. So if a child is falling asleep in class, the teacher can look and can tell which child is falling asleep, okay, which child is not paying attention, okay. Translated Chinese military report obtained by the Washington Times suggests Beijing is looking to create weapons that could subdue enemy forces and reduce the amount of forces needed to defeat them. Such weapon would disorient or confuse enemy forces, making them easy game for Chinese troops. The Pentagon's report said that Chinese military has continued its campaign to become a global innovation power by mastering advanced technologies, which align with previous Chinese Communist Party statement about the intelligentization of future warfare by using emergent and disruptive technologies, including artificial intelligence, quantum, biomedical, autonomous system, and cloud computing. What Beijing can't create or invent, it has stolen. Last year, the National Counterintelligence and Security Center came out with a report listing 5 technology sectors it says were essential to U.S. national and economic interests, in which foreign powers, including China and Russia, were attempting to influence or pulling secrets from. These sectors produce technologies that may determine whether America remains the world's leading superpower or is eclipsed by strategic competitors in the next few years, the agency said. Okay, so again, when they want to tell you that these kind of weapons do not exist, they are lying to us. And those of us within the target individual community who have decided to come out and expose what's being done, right? Despite the threat on our lives, despite the threat of homelessness, they have torn apart our families, they have destroyed our relationships, they have targeted our children, they have turned the community against us for the sake of hiding their research and development programs of mind control weapons. Okay? Like I said, I, for one, I'm not going to let them get away with what they've done to me or you as a TI or anybody else. So they can label me crazy when they feel like it. And again, this is when they feel like it, when it suits them. And so you know that they understand that what they're doing is illegal. You know that they understand that they're violating our rights as human beings. The same rights that they accuse other countries of violating, they're doing the same thing. And you know that the military and the police departments are intertwined. They're not separate as we think that they are, including the security agencies, that's the CIA. Because I know for a fact that particularly in the 1980s, the crack epidemic was caused by the US government and the security agencies. And the CIA has embedded agents within major metropolitan police departments. This is the reason why you see police officers who are able to elicit false confession from anybody at any time. They've learned this from the CIA agents embedded within the state and city police departments. Okay. Also, why isn't I remember when 9/11 happened about a few years later, there was a story about uh, the NYPD sending police officers to Israel to train on counterterrorism. That right there should tell you that the relationship between the police departments and the CIA is not a separate one, but they're intertwined. How could a police department send officers to another country for counterintelligence training? Shouldn't they get that from the FBI? You know, just saying, something you guys to think about. Then, remember in Chicago, Holman Square, which is a Chicago PD black site, in which they would take suspects and torture them. There's a lot that we don't understand and we don't know. But our rights are being violated, have been violated. Our lives are being destroyed because we refuse to remain silent about the non-consensual human experimentation program that's going on. And they are trying to erase us, get rid of us, because we keep speaking, those of us who keep speaking out against this. Okay? And I will continue to speak out against this. So as I was saying, I think I said the word time, and they hear police sirens. And you guys not going to hear it because I have noise suppression on. So when this noise is coming from outside, you're not going to pick it up. Okay, you might hear some background noise in the house, especially if people are loud. But for the most part, you're not going to hear the sirens outside. So, I will mention it when it happens. Okay, so let's what was I wanted to was it this one? See, okay, I thought this was a a link, but this is the same article. I am just just tired, man. Today was a very you know hard day with the targeting, with the remote monitor and the microwave and so because again they're trying to shut me up and I'm not going to be able to, I'm not shutting up no matter what. I'm always anticipating waiting for them to come knock on my door. And when that happened or be stopped on the street, you best leave out. I'm gonna live stream it, and they probably cut my live stream feed, but that's what they do, man. But you guys will definitely, I'm gonna stay on top of this stuff. I'm gonna keep exposing it, regardless of what. Okay, regardless of what they're gonna, like today they were sending me subliminal message about I talk about Pam and how she's trying to send the kids to Texas because she doesn't want to take care of them. Because whoever she meet, what have you, whoever she's with, and the fact that I'm the involved in my kids' lives, that's a problem, right? And so every day this week, my kids have been going to school late, even this morning. I asked my son what time did he get to school. He said at 9:40. I said, what? I said, your school starts at 8:05. That means you missed your first period. He's like, yeah, my daughter too. Okay. But there are times I cannot be over there, knowing that, she's been trying to manipulate me. Okay. And, she's doing things to try to, suit herself. Right. And so she doesn't have the, she thinks about, oh, I put a roof over their head and I buy food for them, whatever, like if that's enough. You know, when she came to me, she's like, oh, we got to get, you know, busy. We got to get serious on the list of schoolwork, stuff like that. I said, who's we? I'm the one that's been doing it. I said, I've been helping her with her homework. It's you. Okay, when I leave and I ask you to help her finish her homework, you go in your bed and you go to sleep. You don't help her. Okay, and you're always tired. But yet you always find the energy to go out, to go here, to go here, to go this, to do this and do that. But you cannot find the energy to help your children with their homework. You know? So, you know, it is what it is. I'm used to her too. I'm used to her, you know. It used to, you know, I still get upset, but, you know, I don't get frustrated anymore because it doesn't make any sense, you know? And, you know, so you can't talk to people who don't want to listen. Okay, you can't. You can't talk to people who have this delusional way of thinking that wants to ignore everything. Okay? That when, you know, that she think that, you know, these kids are going to raise themselves, or I'm going to raise, you know, when I was trying to instill structure and discipline, she was against that. And I told her, I said, when they get older and they start failing in class and they start not listening to you and they start, you know, embarrassing you in public, right, then you're going to want to come to me and turn to me. And I said to her, I told her straight up, I said, guess what? I'm going to be out of it. I'm going to tell you, no thanks. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, this was in China with the Uyghurs. It's funny how they spell it. The pronunciation was with W, Uyghurs. Okay. So yeah, you know, just wanted to do this quick video. Not that quick, but I just wanted to do this video because, again, just, you know, putting the truth out there and then people understand and know what's going on. Okay. And, you know, because it's appalling, you know, and the fact that they can control so many people with these technologies. And I've always said, you know, since I've been in this program, studying this program, what will help you is becoming self-aware of the programming, becoming self-aware of the anchors and the triggers, becoming self-aware of the psychological conditioning, how they do it, how it affects you, right? How they tailor it to your lifestyle. And this is one of the reasons why they keep us isolated and don't want us to do a lot. Okay? Because when we go out, we go places, whatever, that's more people they have to use, which means that means that they're exposing themselves even more. Okay? So this is why isolation is key for them when it comes to isolating you as a target. So then they can, like, sometimes when I get into the isolation mode, whenever I start to look at a video, let's say by Dr. Umar Johnson or Dr. Claude Anderson or Dr. Joseph Ben Jacquemin, right? Dr. John Henry Clark, they'll start with the sirens outside, you know, whoop, whoop. So see, once they isolate you, right, they're thinking that, okay, we've isolated the individual, that's the target. So now we're going to use the police sirens, the police's intimidation now. So now we're going to restrict what information they take in. Okay? So you'll start to see that hit you with denial of service attacks online. You click on certain websites, you come back with a DNS denial. You know, like I said, I study this program too. I'm not just living through it. I'm not just living it. I'm studying it also. Okay? So with that being said, I will speak to you guys on the next video. Take care. And look forward to doing more content like this, as well as, you know, my experience outside when I leave, as well as inside too. So I'll see you guys in the next video.